Fascinating. Thank you, Chuck Sellers. Alex, you want to weigh in on this? This is, I'm getting an education here, and I'm sure most of our audience is. Thank you, sir.
Colonel Sellers hit the nail on the head. He really has. And, he's absolutely right. Because of the atrocities that have occurred here, there is been an agreed upon intervention on humanity's behalf by benevolent races that see us in a very completely different light. And in some manner and fashion, they also feel like they're genetically connected to us, which is something that I alluded to earlier. And this is turning around. And what we talked about before we went live is that, the benevolent, the Star Alliance is winning. We have pushed out some of the races that were really doing humanity harm, or were not of service to humanity in any way, shape, or form. They were very self-serving. They have been pushed out. And there are just a few little pockets of areas that are left. And, it's only a matter of time before we fully understand that not only have we never been alone, but we have a lot more in common than we could possibly imagine with many of the other star races. Many of them have been through much of the trials and tribulations that our humanity, our civilization has been and is going through, even going deep into the past, which many of us don't have a full picture of. So they understand, they're empathetic about what humanity has gone through in the fight that we've been dealing with in order just to survive. One question that one of the Andromedans said to me once, Visayas, I was asked to explain money to them. So over a period of 3 weeks, I make different presentations to them about why we use money. And when it was over with, Morane, who was the other Andromedan, said, thank you very much. Visayas just looked at me and he said, I don't understand. Why do you have to pay to live on a planet you were born on? Boom. There is no answer for that. There really is no answer for that, except for control and manipulation.
Thank you, sir. I want to follow up with a question. You referenced star alliances, and I'm using the term other entities, and we had up on the screen all the different types of aliens and ETs and so forth. Here on Earth, the human race, we spiritual beings having this human experience, we clearly have good and evil on this planet through humans. We can see that. One could call us an insane race and probably a laughing stock of the universe. But having said that, good and evil is my question. We have that. We're in a spiritual battle between good and evil right now. And my question to you, sir, is these alliances and these other entities that we've been discussing, are there good ones and bad ones?
Yes, there's a great deal of contrast.
Talk about that, if you will, please. And we'll go to Chuck Sellers in a moment.
Okay, well, we've had a great deal of that contrast play itself out here in the history of our planet, going back even before the destruction of Atlantis. Much of the history that's there. We know about the Pyramid Wars. A lot of this is in the Sumerian texts. The Pleiadian information that's been shared from Sirius A, Sirius B. There's a lot of information, ancient history, that has been shared. Even the Essenes talk about the battle between light and dark, between different forces that are not of the earth. And so our ancient forefathers and foremothers knew about this. It's just that there was a period of time where it appeared that the darkness was going to win. And therefore, they were successful in creating an amnesia of our history to humanity, keeping us not knowing anything about our history and who we are as a genuine civilization, which kept us off balance. And without that knowledge, we really didn't know who we are. And it's only really until I would say probably the Kennedy assassination was a very pivotal moment where things really began to shift with humanity, because that was an event that worldwide really shaped and really bothered a lot of people. And I mean, you can even go back to the dropping of nuclear weapons on Japan. Although those were pivotal moments, we realized that there was something very, very wrong. That we would do this to each other, and then we would build an industry, an economy based on hurting each other. So this was all part of the plan to keep us divided. And for in large part, they were very, very successful in doing it. I don't know if Colonel Sellers would want to talk about Project Looking Glass, but this was real tech that has been used. And what's really interesting about it is that it showed the awakening of humanity's consciousness. And no matter what the dark side did, humanity was going to achieve full consciousness. We were going to become aware of who we are. And that's what we see playing out now, is that very slowly this movement is happening. And because we have very good people around the world wanting to assist this awakening of humanity, that now we have this information coming out. We have conversations about extraterrestrials. We have conversations coming out about medbeds, of free energy, of holistic living, ether energy. There are so many things that are coming out, colonizing other planets, starting with the moon. There's all these things that are now going mainstream that take our consciousness, instead of being stuck, it allows us to reach up into the sky and look to the heavens and realize that we're not stuck here. We're not prisoners any longer on our planet. And we're not going to be treated like that any longer either.
Fascinating time we're in, and I'm happy to be here during this transition. Chuck, do you care to weigh in on what Alex commented on, and also the good and evil that exists on these other entities, and the Project Looking Glass? Anything else you want to bring to the surface here?
I think the only thing that I'm really familiar with was the remote viewing, and I think that was part of Looking Glass as well. That was a big Cold War project, classified project, to be able to remote view somewhere else, situation in a building or in a certain place, and be able to bring that back for military purposes. Basically, it was a lot of work in the Cold War was done on it, and it was highly classified. And there's been movies about it. But talking about what Alex made a comment on about the history of the world, when I was visited, this was in June of 2021. I was visited by a team of individuals, and starting with 8 people on the first night. It was a Monday night, June 7th, and they walked in the house and basically walked right through the wall, like what Alex had mentioned earlier. They walked right through the back wall of my house and then just spread out in the house, and we started talking. They were telling me just information about, I was asking information about, there's a galactic war going on, from what I understand, with the Galactic Federation of Worlds. And I was just wondering, are we winning? And they told me that, yes, we were winning. And that the war had been going on for a long time, but we were doing well. All kinds of, it was a really interesting 2.5 hours that they stayed. And it was, they never said a word to me. It was all telepathic and asking questions back and forth, just thinking questions to each other. But they were interested at one point. They actually, one of the men, there were 4 men and 4 women. 7 of them looked human, like you and I. One of them did not. I think she was Tashkero from the research that I did on it, from the Lyran system. She had wide set eyes, a really thin, long face, white blonde hair, beautiful, really. I mean, but you could tell was not classically human. She was she had differences in her face. But at one point we were talking, we were just exchanging information, to the point where they were asking me questions about just mundane things in the house. What do you call this? Like they touch a window and say, what is this? And I would explain, it's a glass window. What is glass? And this went on for, they were there for about 2.5 hours. And then they just left. They did ask me to reproduce some star charts for them, which in the end I wasn't able to do because the material that they left that for me to reproduce was so fragile that when I touch it with my fingers, it would crumble. So I was never able to do it. But I got visited again the next day by one of the party. And one person came back every day for the next 3 days, one of their team members. And they reproduced somehow or other, they reproduced the star charts and took them away with them at the end. But during the course of that time, they took me into a bedroom. The person that was there took me into a bedroom and they basically it was like a movie on the wall of the bedroom that just ticker taped all the way around the walls of the bedroom for hours. It went for hours. And my gut feeling, it was all about war, violence, disease, and it just kept going on and on, over and over. And then it finally dawned on me. They're showing me the history of the world from the beginning. And I was convinced of it. I was absolutely convinced that that's what they were showing me. So, I mean, I think that dovetails with what Alice was saying about the lost history, the human lost history, from thousands and thousands of years ago. I mean, I think it's absolutely possible. One of my first memories, and I swear I had this memory all the time, I would picture myself, I could remember myself in a black uniform on the bridge of a starship, and we were fighting the Lyran Wars 22 million years ago. And I was a captain on that starship. And then in my memory, we died in that battle. So that memory just has stuck with me for so many years, that it's kind of like ingrained in me as it stands right now. And I'll shut up for a second and let comment happen.
Thank you for the space here, and thank you for sharing that with us. I'm going to stay with you for a few moments, sir. Simple questions that I know are on the minds of those listening to your experience. Would you summarize the visitation, multiple, that you just walked us through, as a good experience or a bad experience? Were they here to help?
No, I think it was a good experience. They never threatened me. They answered questions the best they could answer to me. I never felt threatened by them at all. I think that they were showing actual interest in what we were talking about and what we were doing. And it's interesting because I've seen craft in the skies and this and that. I've seen UFOs almost all of it was after this team came. And I believe that they actually told me, we're leaving now and we're off to the West Coast. We're going to meet an individual very similar to you. And we're going to do basically the same thing that we did with you tonight. And then they said, and the next, and once we're done with California, we're going to go to New York and do the same thing again. So my complete, at least feeling and understanding was that they have people that are already identified, like they did reconnaissance prior to the visits. And like I was chosen prior to the visit. Why was I chosen? I think it's because I might have an open mind about it, not afraid to talk to them, not afraid to interact with them. And maybe they're there to set the stage for ongoing contact in the future. And they might have been from the future. Maybe it's not interstellar or anything. They could have been us from 500 years in the future, for all I know. But I think that's what was going on. I think they picked their targets, for lack of a better word. They did reconnaissance on us. And like I'm saying, I don't think I'm the only one. But our interaction, I think, is meant to set the stage for future contact. And I can see them coming and asking us to talk for them and about them to our own kind. And maybe make that transition to full knowledge easier.
Well,
thank you, Chuck. One last. Go ahead, Alex.
I'm sorry. The different voices offer a different perspective, and we would all reach different people. Colonel, those who were fighting in the Lyran Wars in order to protect humanity were known as the Black League. Does that ring a bell with you in any way, shape, or form?
It's the first time I've heard those words, but it reminds me of the uniform I was in. I mean, it reminds me exactly of the uniform I was in on that ship. And
we were known as the Black League, and we would fight. We were fighting the battles in order to slow down the Orion Empire so that the civilians could get away and get as far away as they could from the battle to try to preserve our race, the human race.
I mean, basically, it's you remember during the days of Star Trek, and then they had Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica was the documentary of the human race moving out of the affected areas where the reptiles were attacking to get us safely to Earth.
It's my understanding that the Navy was very helpful. Naval intelligence was very helpful in offering ideas in regards to that. And of course, we know Gene Roddenberry was very involved with naval intelligence, and the Navy was very involved in trying to get a lot of these kind of ideas and thoughts into movies and sci-fi and television. So, as always, Navy was on the ball and steering the ship.
And I think it's all of it is a part of disclosure. I mean, going back to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I think that was probably one of the most first really serious efforts at disclosure.
Yeah,
that movie, and it's a classically good movie, well-made movie. But I mean, it definitely opened the door to disclosure down the line.
It was very moving. Yeah.
Colonel Sellos, real quick question. Do you get a sense, you mentioned that these entities have, in your specific example, went on to Los Angeles. Hopefully they'll talk to Gavin Newsom and wake him up. A little joke there, but would you say that do you get a sense that you personally maybe visited again for further
I do.
interaction?
I
Tell me
do.
about that.
I fully expect it. I fully expect it. Probably when I'm least expecting it. But I think that
Mhm.
those of us that they were visiting, I think we're going to get revisited.
Thank you. Alex, sir, do you care to share any of your firsthand intimate experiences with off-world entities, as Colonel Sellers has shared some of his?
Well, Colonel Sellers is. It would seem that he's met a coalition of different races that are all working together. Me, I'm going to just make a leap and say members of this of Star Alliance. My interaction has only been with the Andromedans from Zenite. And every experience I have has been so remarkable. There's not one experience that didn't leave me wanting to stay with them because of a matter of just feeling so completely at peace and feeling as safe as I ever could have imagined that I would ever be. Whenever I was in their presence, that's exactly how I felt. They're just an extraordinary race. They're very healed. They practice what is called the law of consistency, where regardless of the age of any of their population, everyone learns the exact same things. An example, as soon as they can walk, they start learning about their starship. They begin to learn about their food processing. They learn all about their sciences. They go to school for approximately 150 years if we were to convert that into Earth time, where they learn all the sciences, they learn everything that there is. If they're active duty on a starship, they know every nut and bolt, just like the captain or the admiral of every ship would know. They've learned it all, so any one of them could take over and be a leader. And this is what they call the law of consistency. They practice raising a race of leaders. And everyone gets along, everyone understands. Because they're telepathic, there are no secrets. Everyone has to be authentic. It is just an absolutely remarkable place to be.
And when the away team, I call them the away team, was visiting me that night, I had this feeling. At one point, for some reason, my wife, she couldn't hear him, she couldn't see him, and she couldn't hear him. Later on, it was made clear to me that the reason probably was because I was on their frequency, so I could see and hear them because we were all on the same frequency. But Michelle was not. My wife was not, so she wouldn't have been able to interact. And it made I'm a physics major. That made total sense when I started thinking about it that way. It made total sense to me that that's what was happening. But what really struck me was how protective they were. Because so Michelle was watching me show things and do things that she's not understanding what I'm doing. I told her that they're here, so I told her that we're being visited, and so she was aware of what was going on, but she couldn't actually participate. But at some point while they were visiting, closer towards the end when they were getting ready to leave, one of the men went over to Michelle. She was sitting on the couch, and he touched his fingers together and put his arms around her like a protective shield. And the girl, the female that was with him as a partner, she all of a sudden, she just floated up in the air in a lotus position, and she just moved sideways to where she was hanging in the air directly above Michelle. And I just knew in my heart, I knew right from the beginning of that, they're protecting her. They're making sure that she is not harmed by anything that's happening as a result of this conversation between us. That they're protecting her, and I felt that absolutely sure of that while that happened. And then just before they left, they pulled off of her, and they basically just said bye and they left. They were on their way to California. I just thought it was an extraordinary event, and then followed up with what I still think is the history of the world being given to me over the next few days. It was just amazing.
Thank you, gentlemen. I want to provide some feedback. The common theme that I feel and experience listening to each of you share your intimate moments with these off-planet entities, what comes to my mind is high frequency, high vibration, love, safety, comfort, oneness, completeness. And I can feel the impact it had on each of you. So thank you for sharing that with our viewers. To my producer, at any moment, you can put up the image that Colonel Sells submitted to you, of a photograph that Chuck Sellers took. There it is. Talk with us, Chuck, about what we're looking at here on the screen. Where, when, time of day, location, etc.
It's what's kind of interesting about this is that, okay, so I saw the away team. They visited me in June the 7th, that week of 2021. So that picture was taken on November the 22nd, 2022. Okay, and the genesis of that, let me go in chronological order. October of 22, I was just coming in from the grocery store or something. It was just getting dark in the driveway. And it was still kind of twilight, but just getting dark. And that evening, I'm getting out of the car and I just noticed something in the sky. And I looked, and it's darker than the sky around it. It was like super black. The sky was still somewhat blue around it, just turning dark. And the thing was big, and it was just hovering there in the air. We're in Richmond, Texas, and it was hovering there, and it was moving west to east at a really slow, steady rate. And the best way I could describe it, it looked like a nuclear submarine in the air, but the conning tower, instead of being on top, the conning tower was below it. And it was, and the conning tower was towards the front of the ship, of the craft. And it moved just slowly and silently through Sugar Land, through Richmond. And then it slowly turned right to the south and disappeared off over Sugar Land. And so it was like, oh my God, I went in that. I had to tell Michelle about it. I said, I just saw the craziest thing outside. And that was in October. And then this is on November of 22, on November 22nd, actually. And the genesis of this was, I could not see this craft or whatever in the sky with the blue light on it. In the sky it was like a white, super bright white kite tail, like a ribbon. It was just waving in the breeze in the sky. And I was going, this is a really strange thing. I called Michelle to come out and watch it with me, and she saw it. She actually saw it a little different than I did. She seemed to see three different little kite tails that would intertwine with each other. And we watched it for 20 minutes. I guess I'm going, okay, let me get my camera. I started videoing it. This is a still that was taken out of the videos. When I went into the house, remember, I'm not seeing this ship. I'm seeing a kite tail in the sky. So I'm looking on my camera on the video of the phone to look for the kite tail. And as I'm looking at the video, and there's half a dozen videos, I started looking at them all, and all of a sudden, popping into the frame of view is that craft, that shape. And to me, it looks like a saucer with a blue dome on top of it, I believe. I guess it could be inverted. But this is what I saw on camera. not the kite tail. So I think what we did was we took a picture. We were taking video of something that was on the other side of the kite tail or the portal. In my mind, I was probably looking through a portal. And it's really, I thought was interesting. About a month ago, I had a person who saw one of these shows, and she saw this, and she heard me talk about the kite tail, the ribbon in the sky, and she sent me an email telling me that about a year ago, her and her grandson in California had the exact same experience. The kite tail in the sky, and they watched it for minutes and minutes. You know, she said it's exactly the same experience that you described. So, you know what? I think this might be related to the visit by the away team 6 months prior, and then it happens, you know, or 8 months prior, or whatever it was. I'm just saying, because all of this started happening together. Now I've seen some things, lights in the sky before. Usually, it's a blue light. Several times there was a blue light that was basically trailing me or flying alongside me on a car on the interstate coming from where I was doing some work in the Pentagon in D.C. and then driving back to Fort Bragg. And my buddy that was driving with me, that was working with me, he saw the same thing. And it followed us for some miles, and then it zoomed off in a 90-degree angle and disappeared. And that's happened a couple of times, and it was both coming from D.C. back to Fort Bragg. So, I mean, I think these things could be all related. And I guess we can talk about this later, but I later, through some other experiences that I was having, I started having memories of, I had this, one of my earliest memories is of a ball of light, orange light, like fire in the sky, like a fireball in the sky, a basketball of size orange light in the sky. It's one of my first memories. And then I've had some experiences over the last couple of years where some of those memories are coming back. Maybe they're not the way I was always remembering it as a shooting star for some reason, but I don't know why, because it doesn't look like a shooting star. It's hanging in the sky outside the picture window of the house we were living in when I was about 4 years old. And then my next memory is they told me that I was having a lot of nosebleeds. And then, so the memory that I remember is being on a metal table, like a hospital table, but it was a metal table, and people in white clothes were around me, and they were sticking these long 10-inch needles up my nose, and it was hurting me intensely right in the center of my forehead. And I mean, that's one of my oldest memories was the pain of that, and the nosebleeds, and the pain in the center of my head. And now I'm wondering, did I actually see a UFO that was sitting out in the front yard, that ball of light? And then was the pain, was it really the correct memory that I was having nosebleeds? Or maybe the nosebleeds are coming from whatever they were sticking up my nose to implant into my forehead. So my thought process changed drastically over the last couple of years, that maybe those memories were not the memories that were placed in my head, because they often do that. And if you read the novels, or not novels, you read the eyewitness accounts, you know, from the fire in the sky encounter with the lumberjack in Arizona back in the 70s. You read some of these encounters, and there's a lot of similarity with that orange ball hanging in the sky. Men in white or people in white coats with a metallic table, no sheets, and you're laying on it, having things put in your nose. I started opening my mind to possibilities of what might have actually happened back then.
Thank you, Colonel Sellers, for sharing all that information with us and your personal experiences. It's extraordinary.